I woke to the faint warmth of lips grazing my cheek, gentle, hurried, apologetic. Keon was already dressed, tie hanging loose around his neck, shoes half-laced, as if he'd sprint out the door if he could. If this story touched your heart, friends, please like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more touching stories. Thank you for being here. Morning light barely seeped through the curtains, casting pale lines across his face. "I'm so sorry, Zola," he murmured, kissing me again. "They pushed our morning briefing to 9. I have to be there early. But tonight, I promise, it's all about you." It was my birthday. 42. A number neither young nor old, just somewhere in between. A limbo age. Keon had never once forgotten my birthday in 18 years of marriage. He always planned something thoughtful. This year, even with him rushing through the morning, I still believed he had something meaningful in store. "It's okay," I said with a small smile. Inside, though, a sliver of disappointment tugged at me. I understood life, work, schedules, they always intruded, but birthdays had always been our thing. He kissed me one last time before leaving. I breathed in the familiar scent of his cologne, the same one I gifted him for our anniversary 3 years ago. Keon never changed his cologne, his routines, or his quiet rituals. He was consistent to a fault. When the door shut behind him, silence filled the room. I stared at the ceiling for a while, letting the quiet settle. At 42, my mother had already raised 2 daughters, built a career, bought her own place. What had I done? A decent job at a large insurance company, a happy enough marriage, a modest condo in Atlanta. No children, not by choice, but by the silent decisions of biology and circumstance. We had accepted it, even embraced the closeness it forced between us. Just us against the world, Keon used to say. I eventually got up, showered, and made myself strong coffee. Birthdays on work days always felt strange. Everyone rushing around and you telling yourself it's a special day, even when it looks exactly like any other Monday. Maybe only the person who loves you truly remembers. At work, Brianna surprised me with a little bouquet and a small cake from a bakery. We shared coffee in the break room, joked about our boss's dramatic emails, vented about clients. It was comforting, familiar, but the entire day my thoughts drifted toward the evening, toward Keon cooking dinner, candles lit, the two of us opening that same bottle of wine we always saved for celebrations. It wasn't just a drink anymore, it was a ritual woven into our marriage. When I got home at 6, I was surprised to find Keon already there. The smell of roasted herbs and something buttery drifted from the kitchen. My heart warmed instantly. He was cooking for me, really cooking, the way he used to when we first married. "Zoe?" he called from the kitchen. "Perfect timing. Go get dressed. I'm almost done." I chose a deep emerald dress he adored, fixed my hair, retouched my makeup. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I noticed the fine lines around my eyes a little more clearly. 42 wasn't old, but it wasn't young either. It was that strange no man's land where you've lived enough to see truth, but still hope for more. When I stepped out, the dining table was set with a white tablecloth, candles, and our good china. Roasted sea bass, my favorite, sat steaming on the plates. Fresh rolls, salad, and the wine. Our wine. The wine we open for every important moment. "It's beautiful," I whispered. Keon grinned proudly. "Only the best for my girl." He uncorked the wine with practiced ease. Pop. A sound that had become symbolic for us. He poured the glasses. "To my wife," he said, raising his, "to the woman who makes my life worth living." I lifted mine, smiling until a strange scent curled into my nose. Subtle? Wrong. Not the usual cherry oak aroma I knew by heart. Something faintly chemical. The smile on my face faltered. And suddenly, in the middle of that perfect birthday evening, something inside me whispered, "Don't drink that." But what if that whisper wasn't paranoia, but a warning? I held the wine glass closer to my face, inhaling again just to be sure. The smell was barely there, so faint that anyone less familiar with the wine would never detect it. But I knew that aroma like a signature. We'd shared that bottle too many times over 18 years for me to mistake it. Something was off. Kian watched me from across the table, already taking a small sip of his wine. He smiled warmly, waiting for my reaction. "Everything okay?" I hesitated. "It smells different," I said slowly, not wanting to sound accusatory. "Like something's mixed in." Kian lifted his glass again, inhaled, then shrugged lightly. "Smells normal to me. Same vintage, same brand. Maybe your allergies are acting up, or maybe the bottle aged differently." But I wasn't congested, and this wasn't my imagination. Not when that odd bitterness lingered beneath the usual smooth notes. A whisper of something medicinal. I lowered the glass, forcing a casual tone. "Maybe I picked up the wrong one. Maybe this is yours. Here, let's switch." The suggestion was light, almost a joke. But inside, I felt my heartbeat spike. I needed to know. Needed to rule out the ridiculous, shameful thought forming in the back of my mind. Kian's expression flickered. Just barely. A brief tightening near his eyes. A pause too slight for anyone else to notice. Then he smiled and swapped our glasses. "See?" he said, taking a sip from the glass that had been mine. "All good." I lifted his glass, inhaled deeply, and there it was. The familiar scent, rich and clean. No bitterness, no chemical undertone. My stomach tightened. So I hadn't imagined it. In my original glass, the one Kian had just sipped from, something had been different. We continued eating, though my mind was no longer present. Kian talked about a coworker who couldn't keep track of deadlines. I nodded in the right moments, but listened instead to the pounding in my chest. 10 minutes passed, maybe 12. And then, mid-sentence, Kian stopped speaking entirely. His fork clattered softly onto the plate. "Kian?" I asked, my voice suddenly thin. He swallowed hard, blinking rapidly. I, I don't feel right." His skin turned ghostly pale in seconds. A sheen of sweat glistened on his forehead. His breathing grew uneven, as if his body had suddenly forgotten how to function. I rushed to him. "What's happening? What do you feel?" "My head," he murmured, clutching it. "Everything's spinning, and my chest, it feels tight." Panic surged through me. Whatever had been in that wine, whatever faint smell I'd picked up, was hitting him fast and hard. "I'm calling an ambulance," I said, already reaching for my phone. He tried to protest weakly. "No, maybe it's just something I ate." "Kian, look at you!" My voice cracked. "This isn't food poisoning. Something's wrong." He didn't argue again. His breathing faltered and his hand slipped from mine. As I dialed, fear twisted through me so sharply I nearly dropped the phone. I forced myself to speak clearly to the emergency operator, explaining the symptoms, the onset, the possibility of intoxication. That word, intoxication, hung in the air like an accusation neither of us wanted to acknowledge. Within minutes, Kian had worsened. His pulse felt irregular beneath my fingers, racing, then slowing, then racing again. He tried to stand but collapsed back into the chair. "Zoe," he whispered hoarsely, terror flickering in his eyes. I think something's really wrong." I held him, helpless, feeling as if the world had cracked open beneath my feet. And then he vomited violently, his entire body convulsing. I steadied him, tears spilling down my cheeks, fear choking my throat. By the time the paramedics burst through our door, Kian was barely conscious. They worked swiftly, checking vitals, asking questions, preparing the stretcher. "Symptoms suggest toxic ingestion. We need to get him to the hospital now." As they wheeled Kian out, I paused only long enough to grab both wine glasses from the table.
A wild instinct told me not to let them out of my sight. I poured each into food storage bags, labeled them, and tucked them into the fridge. If I was wrong, it was paranoia. But if I was right, those glasses held the truth. At the hospital, everything blurred into fluorescent lights and clipped voices. Forms, tests, machines beeping. The cold dread of the unknown. Then, finally, after what felt like an eternity, a doctor approached. "Mrs. Bell, your husband is stable, but we detected high levels of barbiturates in his system, a dose strong enough to cause coma, possibly worse." My breath left my body. Barbiturates. Sleeping sedatives. Something no one simply accidentally ingests. How, the doctor began, eyeing me carefully, how would barbiturates end up in your husband's bloodstream? I stared at him, the truth tightening around me like a vice. I think someone put them in the wine, but the drink was meant for me. And if someone wanted me dead, then the real question wasn't how, but who?
The doctor's words echoed in my ears long after he walked away. Barbiturates in Keon's bloodstream. Enough to shut down his body completely if the paramedics hadn't acted fast. I sat there in a plastic hospital chair, hands trembling, feeling like the world had tilted sideways. Someone had tried to kill me. That much was becoming impossible to deny. When I was finally allowed to see Keon, he looked fragile, pale, exhausted, surrounded by machines. He wore an oxygen mask, a thin blanket pulled up to his chest. Seeing my strong, steady husband like that made something inside me break. I sat beside him and held his hand. It felt cold, but alive. "Keon," I whispered, "I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry." His eyelids fluttered open slightly, and he looked at me through the haze of medication and weakness. "Zoe, what happened?" I said, "You were poisoned. Barbiturates. They were in the wine. The glass I was supposed to drink." Saying the words out loud made my skin crawl. When we switched glasses, you drank it instead. He stared at me in shock, as though trying to process the impossible. "Someone tried to kill you?" "I don't know," I whispered, "but the police need answers." Before he could respond, a nurse entered and gently motioned for me to give him rest. I kissed his forehead, left the room, and walked down the hallway, feeling as if every step deepened the mystery. The next morning, Detective Sterling called and asked me to come to the precinct. His voice was calm, in a way that made me tense. Calm voices usually precede bad news. He was in his early 50s, stern eyes, but an oddly warm demeanor. After offering me a seat, he set a recorder on the desk. "Mrs. Bell, I need you to recount everything from the beginning. Every detail matters." So, I told him everything. The birthday dinner, the wine, the strange smell, the glass switch, Keon's collapse, the hospital's findings. Sterling took notes quietly. His pen scratched steadily across the page with each new revelation. "And you're certain the odd smell was only in your glass?" he asked. "I know that wine. Something was hidden beneath the aroma." "And only your glass contained the barbiturates? We've tested the samples." He tapped his notebook. "Mrs. Bell, the poison was meant for you." The room suddenly felt thinner. "Now, we need to consider motive. You mentioned something yesterday. Your husband recently persuaded you to take out life insurance. He said it was responsible, adult, something couples our age do. How much are we talking?" $500,000 each. Sterling raised his eyebrow. "That's a significant amount, enough to tempt certain people into doing desperate things." I felt my throat tighten. "Are you saying Keon tried to kill me?" "He's not saying anything yet, but we need to examine every angle. He had access to the wine, and he's been home before you. That's opportunity. Now we must determine motive. I shook my head automatically. Keon would never. But even as the words left my mouth, doubt crept in. Keon's recent distant behavior, his guarded phone, his lateness, his weird tension over the last 6 months. Things I had brushed aside, trusting the man I loved. Sterling leaned forward. Mrs. Bell, couples in financial strain sometimes make dangerous, irrational choices. You said he's been stressed lately. Has anything changed in his job? That question struck something inside me. He has been working late, I admitted. More than usual, but he said it was due to a new project. Sterling nodded slowly. We will verify his employment status. People often lie about work schedules when hiding secret activities. I felt sick. And the woman you mentioned, his ex. Oh, Veronica. Yes. The one who had a difficult breakup with him years ago. That's another lead. He was right, of course. Veronica could have motives from the past, but something about blaming her felt too distant, too disconnected from the present. What about your close friends? Sterling asked. Anyone who had access to your home? Anyone who might have personal conflicts with you? I thought about Brianna, my closest friend. She had moved away years ago, but had visited my place countless times back then. Brianna had a spare key, I said slowly, but she returned it before she moved. Did she? Sterling asked, arching a brow. People can make duplicates. I stomach twisted. No, she wouldn't. Brianna would never hurt me. Sterling sighed. Mrs. Bell, in cases like this, the people closest to you are often the first suspects. That includes your spouse and your closest friend. His words cut deep, not because I believed them, but because they made too much sense to ignore. After another hour of questioning, I left the precinct emotionally drained. My head buzzed with too many possibilities. Husband, friend, ex-lover. Every path led to someone I knew, someone I trusted. Back at the hospital, I found Keon sitting up in bed, looking slightly better. His eyes lit up when he saw me, and despite everything, my heart tugged painfully. Zoe, he said quietly, there's something I need to tell you, something I have hidden for months. My breath hitched. What is it? Keon inhaled deeply, shame coloring his expression. I lost my job. Months ago, and I didn't tell you. The ground shifted beneath me, but what he confessed next would shatter everything I thought I knew about him.
For a moment, I simply stared at him. The words hung in the air like drifting ash, soft but heavy enough to suffocate. You lost your job? I repeated quietly. Keon nodded, shoulders slumping as if the confession itself exhausted him. 4 months ago, the firm downsized. They let go of senior staff first. I was one of them. I tried to swallow the knot in my throat, but couldn't. 4 months ago? And you didn't tell me? His eyes closed, anguish etching deep lines across his forehead. I was ashamed, Zola. I felt like a failure. I thought I'd find another job quickly, maybe within weeks. I didn't want to worry you. Hurt prickled my skin. Instead, you lied. Every day. For months? I know. He opened his eyes again, guilt swimming in them. I pretended to go to work, pretended to stay late, pretended everything was fine. I didn't want you to see me as weak. It struck me then how hard he worked to keep up an image, how much effort he put into seeming unshakable. But this wasn't a harmless secret. This was months of deception, entire days constructed out of lies. And the money? I asked numbly. My salary alone couldn't cover all our expenses. His expression crumpled. I took out a loan. A loan? I whispered. How much? 40,000. 40,000? Against what? The condo. Our Condo, I corrected sharply. The one you convinced me to put in both our names? He nodded, gaze lowering. I thought I'd have a job by the time the payments were due, but things got worse. Interviews went nowhere. Weeks passed, then months. The betrayal was a dull roar inside me, anger mixed with heartbreak. You should have told me, I said. We could have figured it out together. He was terrified you'd leave, terrified you'd think I wasn't the man you married. The admission softened something inside me, but only slightly. Fear of losing me wasn't justification for endangering our home or lying day after day. I exhaled shakily. Keon, all this, your job, the debt, the secrecy, it's bad, but it doesn't explain the poisoning. He blinked rapidly. You think I did that? I hesitated. I didn't want to believe it, but Sterling's questions echoed in my mind. Motive, opportunity, stress, debt, insurance. You had access to the wine, I said quietly. You were home alone. You set the table. You poured the drinks. And I drank the poison, he snapped, voice rising before he winced in pain from the effort. Zola, why would I poison myself? Maybe you didn't expect the switch, I countered. Maybe you panicked and didn't know how to say no without revealing something. He shook his head vehemently. No, no, I would never harm you. Debt or no debt, job or no job, I wouldn't lay a finger on you. The hurt in his voice was real, or very convincing. But then his gaze shifted, uneasy, hesitant. There's something else, he whispered. My stomach clenched. What now, Keon? Please, no more surprises. I can barely process what I already know. He swallowed hard. I wasn't alone during those months. I met someone. The world seemed to tilt again. A woman? He asked. He nodded slowly. Shame radiated off him like heat. We met at a coffee shop. At first it was just talking. We were both struggling. Then it turned into more. My hands went cold. Her name? I managed to ask. Serafina. The name struck me like an open-handed slap. I'd heard it before. From the office Christmas party photo. From the warm smile of a woman who stood too close to him. You were having an affair, I whispered. I didn't plan it, he said quickly. I was depressed, lost. She understood what I was going through. But I never stopped loving you. I swear. My chest tightened painfully. Keon, do you have any idea how this looks? You lie about your job, hide debt, start seeing another woman, and then barbiturates show up in the wine meant for me? He flinched as if struck. Zola, I didn't poison you. I swear on my life. I believed he meant the words, but sincerity didn't guarantee innocence. He gripped my hand weakly. There's something else you need to know about Serafina. Something I've been afraid to admit. I froze. What is it? I whispered. He looked at me with terrified eyes. She wasn't just my lover. She's dangerous, Zola. And I think she's capable of anything. And in that moment, I realized the woman he'd been seeing might not have been just a mistress, but a threat.
When Keon uttered the word dangerous, something cold slid down my spine. Until then, Serafina had been little more than a shadow, a name whispered with guilt. But suddenly, she became something else entirely, something sharp-edged, something real. I sat back slowly. Dangerous how? Keon rubbed a hand across his face, wincing as he shifted upright. When I first met her, she seemed sweet, warm, the kind of person who looks at you like she already understands your sorrows. His voice dropped. But she changed. In what way? I pressed. She got possessive, he said. At first, she'd ask harmless questions about my life.
Then she wanted my schedule, my phone password. She'd show up unannounced. Everywhere I went, she followed. He exhaled shakily. The day she found out I was married, she didn't get angry. She got obsessed. My skin prickled. Obsessed with what? He shook so suddenly. You. He whispered. I froze. Me? Yes, not jealous of you, fixated on you. She'd ask what kind of clothes you wore, what perfume you liked, what book you were reading. She'd scroll through my phone to see your photos. She even asked me once how you liked your food seasoned. He swallowed hard. That wasn't admiration. That was something else. A chill settled in my bones. Why didn't you tell me sooner? He hesitated. I was scared, he admitted. I ended things with her months ago, but she didn't take it well. She kept calling from different numbers, leaving gifts at my car. The morning I lost my job, she somehow showed up at the parking lot as if she knew. The realization hit me like a wave. Serafina wasn't just tangled in our lives. She had been studying them. Why didn't you go to the police? I asked. He said, I tried, but I had no proof. She always acted normal when others were around. I thought if I ignored her long enough, she'd go away. I pressed my fingers to my forehead, trying to process everything. Affair, lies, debt, and now a stalker mistress. Kian, if she was obsessed with me, why would she try to kill me? He hesitated. Too long. Because, in her mind, maybe getting rid of you meant she could have me completely. My hands trembled uncontrollably. The image of the poisoned wine glass surfaced again. The faint scent, the timed attack. He reached for me. Zola, listen. When I said she was dangerous, I meant it. I never thought she'd go this far, but I know what she's capable of. I pulled my hand away, not out of cruelty, but because my thoughts were spiraling too fast. I said quietly, if she's this unhinged, then she might try something again. Kian looked down. There's more. My breath caught. Please, Kian, no more secrets. He nodded, eyes burning with regret. 2 weeks ago, she showed up to my car again. I told her it was over, that I loved you, that I wanted to fix my marriage. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just smiled. He shuddered, and she said, then I'll fix it for you. Ice pooled in my stomach. Fix? How? He didn't explain, he whispered, but she took something from the passenger seat when she left. I never figured out what. My chest tightened with dread. Serafina had access to your car. She knew where you kept things. She knew your routine. She could have easily slipped barbiturates into something you brought home. Kian nodded weakly. The wine. She knew we saved that bottle for celebrations. The pieces connected like shattered glass forming a sharper shape. Serafina wasn't just obsessed. She was calculating. Have you heard from her since? Kian looked at me with haunted eyes. No, not since the day she smiled like that. I stood up, pacing the hospital room. My heart pounded with equal parts fear and fury. We need to tell Detective Sterling everything, every detail, now. Kian nodded. I want to, but I'm scared she's watching. She always had a way of knowing things. That thought echoed painfully in my mind, because if Serafina truly was watching, she might already know the poison failed, and that I was still alive.
At that moment, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I glanced at the screen. Unknown number. Beautiful dress last night. Emerald suits you. My blood ran cold. Because Serafina hadn't just targeted me, she was following me.
My hand nearly slipped when I read the message again, the words imprinting themselves like icy fingerprints across my skin. Beautiful dress last night. Emerald suits you. My throat tightened, and I felt the air leave my lungs in a slow, terrified rush. No one besides Keon and the hospital staff had seen me last night. No one. I deleted the text instinctively, as though erasing it might erase the terror crawling beneath my skin. I turned to Keon, whose expression instantly shifted when he saw my face. "Zoe, what's wrong?" I handed him my phone with trembling fingers. His whole body stiffened as he read the message. "It's her," he whispered. "It has to be." I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly chilled. "Keon, she texted me. She knew what I wore. She was watching." "Maybe she followed me the other day," he said. "Maybe she's been keeping tabs on us both. I told you, she's unpredictable." A knot formed in my stomach. "We need to go to the police now." He nodded, but before either of us could call, a nurse entered asking for vitals. I pocketed the phone, attempting to keep my composure. After the nurse left, Keon looked exhausted, his eyelids heavy from the sedatives and the stress of everything he had just confessed. "You should go see Sterling," he murmured. "Tell them everything. I'll be fine here." I hesitated. Leaving him felt wrong, but delaying the police even longer felt worse. "I'll be back soon." Before I left, he squeezed my hand. "Zola, please be careful. She's not like anyone you've ever met." Detective Sterling listened with a seriousness that chilled me more than the text did. He sat back in his chair, hands clasped together, eyes narrowing thoughtfully as I explained Keon's admission about the affair, the stalking, and now the message. When I finished, he didn't speak for several seconds. Finally, he said, "Mrs. Bell, based on what you've told me, this woman, Serafina, cannot be ignored anymore. If she targeted you once, she may try again." "I know," I whispered. "Keon said she was capable of anything." Sterling tapped his pen on the desk. "We'll put out a preliminary search request, but without proof she poisoned the wine, we can't arrest her yet." I stared at him in disbelief. "What more proof do you need? My husband nearly died because someone put barbiturates in our wine." "Yes," he said calmly, "but right now, all we have is circumstantial evidence, nothing tying her directly to the bottle." He sighed. "But the text message helps. If she's harassing you, we can track the number." I felt a flicker of hope. "So you can find her?" "We can try," he said. "But people like her, obsessive, manipulative, they often use burner phones. She might be covering her tracks." I pressed my hand to my forehead. "So what do I do?" Sterling leaned forward. "You go home, stay alert, do not open the door for unknown visitors. If she contacts you again, screenshot everything. Keep the phone and call me immediately." Fear settled deep in my chest. "I don't feel safe." "We'll increase patrols around your neighborhood," he reassured. "But until we have more evidence..." Evidence. Always evidence. And meanwhile, a woman with a fixation on me was roaming free. I left the precinct feeling raw and shaken. The sky was gray, the kind that pressed low, heavy with tension. As I drove home, every car behind me felt suspicious. Every pedestrian who turned their head made my pulse spike. My paranoia grew teeth. When I reached home, I checked every window, every lock, every blind. That's when I noticed it. On my kitchen counter, where I had not left anything earlier that day, sat a single object, a crisp white envelope. No postage, no name, just sitting there,
placed neatly beside the fruit bowl. My stomach dropped. I scanned the room. No forced entry, nothing out of place. Hands trembling, I opened the envelope. Inside was a photo. A photo of me, standing in the hospital corridor taken earlier that morning. My mouth dried. Underneath the photo was a single line, handwritten in precise looping letters. You should have drunk the wine. My knees nearly buckled. She had been inside my home. She had been close enough to leave this, close enough to watch me without being seen. And she wanted me to know it. Because Serafina wasn't just stalking me anymore. She was letting me know the game had only just begun.
I stood frozen in the middle of my kitchen, the photograph trembling between my fingers. The image, grainy but unmistakable, captured me walking down the hospital hallway, my purse slung over my shoulder, my expression tired and anxious. Someone had taken it without me noticing. Someone close. Someone watching. Someone who had then let themselves into my home. I felt the walls shift around me, the air too thin to breathe. The envelope slipped from my hand and fluttered onto the counter. My first instinct was to run. My second was to scream. But neither would save me from the reality sinking in. Serafina wasn't just watching me from afar. She was entering my spaces, my home, my mind, my life. I grabbed my phone and called Detective Sterling immediately. It rang twice before he answered, his voice steady. "Mrs. Bell?" I said breathlessly. "She was here, inside my house." Sterling's tone sharpened. "Slow down. What happened?" "I came home and found an envelope on the counter, a photo of me from this morning, and a message." "Do not touch anything else," he instructed. "I'm sending officers right now. Step outside and wait where you're visible." I did as he said, pacing on the porch until 2 patrol cars rolled up the street. Officers entered the house first, checking every room while I waited outside with shaking hands. Sterling arrived 15 minutes later, coat slightly wrinkled as though he'd rushed out of the office. They dusted the envelope for prints. A few smudges, nothing clear enough. The photo was printed on glossy paper. No fingerprints. The handwriting was elegant, looping, calculated. The message still made my skin crawl. Sterling looked at me gravely. "She wanted you to find this. She's taunting you." I swallowed tightly. "I know. What worries me more," he added, "is how she got inside. Your locks don't appear damaged. I checked everything. I didn't see anything out of place. Which means she either had a key," he said slowly, "or she's skilled at bypassing locks." A wave of nausea rolled through me. "A key? How?" He raised his hand gently. "We'll cover that possibility. For now, you need to pack a small bag." "Why?" "You're not staying here tonight." I didn't argue. I felt exposed, as though the very walls had eyes. I packed quickly, just essentials. A few clothes, toiletries. Sterling offered to call a patrol car to escort me to a hotel, but the one place I needed to be was the hospital. Keon was still there, still hooked to machines, still vulnerable. When I arrived, the hallway lights seemed cruelly bright. I half expected Serafina to be there, leaning against a corner with that eerie, knowing smile Keon described. But the corridor was quiet. Keon looked up when I entered his room. His expression softened with relief and worry. "Zola, what happened? Sterling called me." My voice cracked. "She was in the house, Keon." His face drained of color. "What? When?" "Today, she left a picture of me." He closed his eyes, jaw tightening in anguish. "Damn it, I never meant for any of this to touch you." "It's already touching me,"
I said quietly. It's choking me. I sat beside him, explaining everything. The envelope, the photo, the message. His hand trembled when I finished. Zoe, if she's escalating, this is going to get worse. I didn't want to hear that, but I felt it too. This wasn't the act of someone merely jealous. This was obsession sharpened into violence. A nurse entered to check Keon's vitals, giving us a sliver of privacy. When she left, Keon spoke again. There's something else. Something I didn't tell you because... He hesitated. Because I didn't think it mattered. But now, it does. I felt dread unfurl slowly. What now? He exhaled shakily. Before things ended with Serafina, she said something I didn't understand at the time. I thought it was just emotional manipulation, but now... He looked at me with hollow eyes. She told me that if I didn't choose her, she would use what she had to destroy everything. Use what she had? I repeated. Use what? He shook his head. I don't know. She never explained, but she said it with certainty, like she had leverage, something solid. A cold ripple flowed through me. Keon, what could she possibly have? He swallowed hard. Something she took from my car. Something important. Something she said would hurt me where it matters most. My heart hammered faster. And what does that mean? He looked at me, a hollow, terrified look. I think she has something connected to you. My breath caught. And whatever it is, he whispered, she's planning to use it. Because Serafina didn't just want me gone, she wanted to destroy us piece by piece, starting with whatever secret she now held in her hands.
His words echoed in the quiet hospital room, sinking into the spaces between the beeping monitors and the hum of fluorescent lights. Something connected to you. A chill crept up my spine. Keon, what does that even mean? What could she possibly have that links to me? He shook his head slowly, eyes clouded with frustration and fear. I don't know. One day, she reached into my car and took something from the glove compartment. I didn't see what it was. I thought maybe it was a napkin or a receipt. Something meaningless. But later, she said she finally had what she needed. At the time, I thought she was just trying to frighten me. I swallowed hard. And you never thought to mention this earlier? His shoulders sagged. Zoe, I should have told you a lot of things earlier. He wasn't wrong. Lies had piled on lies. But now wasn't the time for resentment. Survival had become the priority. Before I could ask another question, Detective Sterling stepped into the room. His expression was tight, grave. Mrs. Bell, Mr. Bell, I need to speak with both of you. Keon straightened slightly, his muscles tense. Did you find something? Sterling nodded. We ran the number that texted you, Mrs. Bell. It was a burner phone, purchased in cash at a 24-hour corner store on Ashbury Avenue. We pulled the security footage. My breath hitched. And? Sterling exhaled slowly. We couldn't get a clear face because the woman wore a hood and kept her head down. But her build, her hair, her posture, they match your description of Serafina. Keon closed his eyes, guilt washing over his features. So it's definitely her. Sterling raised a hand. We're not done. We also checked your home's exterior cameras. I blinked. Cameras? I don't have cameras. No, Sterling said, but your neighbors do. A shiver rippled through me. She entered your house at 3:13 p.m. No forced entry. She walked straight up to your door, unlocked it, and stepped inside. So she does have a key, I whispered. Sterling nodded grimly. It appears so. She was inside for 9 minutes.
long enough to leave the envelope, possibly long enough to do more, but so far we haven't found evidence of tampering. Keon's voice broke. This is my fault. All of it. Sterling gave him a firm look. Right now, blame won't keep your wife safe. What we need is information. Every detail about this woman, her habits, places she frequents, any address you know, anyone she may have talked to. Keon hesitated, then said, she once mentioned staying at an Airbnb near the south side, around Lark Avenue. She said it was temporary. Sterling jotted it down. I'll have officers check every rental in that area, but people like her, obsessive, unstable, they move frequently. I fidgeted with the sleeve of my sweater, anxiety building in my chest. Detective, what if she comes back? What if she tries something again? Sterling's voice softened just slightly. She will. People like her don't stop until the fantasy they built breaks or until they're caught. The thought made my stomach churn. After Sterling left, I sat beside Keon again, staring at the floor. This can't go on. We need to understand what she took. Keon bit his lip, thinking. The glove compartment usually has, insurance papers, receipts, the registration, maybe old mail. My head snapped up. Old mail? Yes. Sometimes I toss envelopes in there when I open them at the car. What kind of envelopes? Anything personal? He frowned. Possibly. Maybe something from the clinic, something from your job. Then his eyes widened. Zola, didn't you send off some paperwork about your mother's inheritance a while back? The probate letter? I froze. The letter confirming the funds in my name? The one that stated the amount, the account details, everything? My pulse thundered. Keon, was that letter ever in your car? He swallowed hard. Maybe. I'm not sure. It was around that time. A sharp, dreadful realization bloomed within me. Serafina didn't just want me gone. She wanted what I had. She wanted leverage. She wanted access. And if she had that insurance letter, she had everything she needed to ruin my life without ever touching me. At that moment, my phone vibrated in my pocket again. A new message. No number, no sender. Just a single sentence. Tell Keon the truth before I do. My blood ran cold, because now Serafina wasn't just threatening my safety, she was threatening to reveal a secret I never told anyone, not even my husband. My heart stalled as I stared at the message. Tell Keon the truth before I do. The words glowed on the screen like a lighter held to paper, ready to burn everything down. My hands went numb. My throat tightened. Because only one secret existed. One I'd buried so deep, I sometimes convinced myself it had never happened. Keon noticed immediately. So, what did she say this time? I locked my phone, unable to look him in the eyes. Nothing, I whispered. It's nothing. He reached for my hand, weak but insistent. Zola, please, no more lies. Not from you, not after everything I've done. His voice cracked with honesty. That was the cruelest part. He was finally telling the truth, and now it was my turn to break his heart. But I couldn't. Not yet. Serafina wanted chaos, destruction. She wanted us to turn us against each other until there was nothing left. I wouldn't give her that satisfaction. I'll explain later, I murmured. So, before he could push, Detective Sterling returned. His expression was sharper now, more urgent. We located a rental, a basement-level Airbnb on Lark Avenue. Matches the description Mr. Bell gave, but when we arrived, the place was empty. Empty? I echoed. Sterling nodded. Cleaned out. Not a trace of her. No clothing, no toiletries, no personal items.
just a mattress on the floor and a single trash bag. He paused. Inside was a stack of printed photos. I felt my stomach clench. Photos of what? You, Sterling said quietly. Dozens of them. Some taken from afar, some through your windows. A cold wave washed over me, leaving my skin prickled and raw. She's been watching me longer than I thought. She's calculated, methodical. She erases her tracks, keeps moving, never stays in one place. But she made a mistake this time. Hope flickered in my chest. What mistake? We found receipts for items purchased recently. Hair dye, disposable phones, gloves, all paid with a card. A card linked to a woman named Serafina Drake. For the first time, Sterling continued, we have a traceable identity. Keon exhaled shakily. So now you can track her? We're trying, he said, but she's clever. She's already deactivated her social accounts and abandoned the rentals connected to her name. I rubbed my arms, suddenly cold. Then what do we do? Sterling's gaze softened. You stay somewhere secure, both of you, and you keep your phones on. If she contacts you again, he paused, voice tightening, don't respond. I nodded, though fear gnawed at me. Serafina wasn't the type to stop because someone told her to. She thrived on fear, on proximity, on control. When Sterling left, silence filled the room again, a heavy, suffocating silence. Keon turned to me. Zoe, what truth is she talking about? What could you possibly be hiding from me? My pulse hammered. It's something from before we married. He frowned. Before we married? I took a breath that felt like swallowing glass. Keon, when my mother passed, the inheritance, it wasn't just money. It came with obligations, legal complications, things I handled quietly. What complications? He asked, brow furrowing. I looked away. This was the secret I'd been running from, the shadow from my past I'd hoped would never surface. My mother's former caregiver, I whispered. A woman named Dahlia Wynne. His eyes widened. Dahlia? Wait, Dahlia Wynne? That's... Zoe, that's the same last name as... I nodded slowly. Yes, Serafina's real last name isn't Drake, it's Wynne. A suffocating stillness settled between us. Dahlia had a daughter, I continued. She believed my mother owed her everything for years of care. She believed the inheritance should have gone to her. She even confronted me about it once after the funeral, told me she'd collect what was hers with time. Keon stared at me stunned. You think Serafina is Dahlia's daughter? I know she is, I whispered. My mother mentioned her once, said she was troubled, unpredictable. I never imagined she would become this. Keon swallowed hard. Zoe, she didn't just target you because of me. She's been waiting for this. Yes, I said, voice trembling. She's been planning longer than we realized. My phone buzzed again. A new message. From the same unknown number. You took everything from my mother. Now I'll take everything from you. My knees weakened, because now I understood. This wasn't just jealousy, or obsession, or a crime of passion. This was vengeance. And the woman hunting me wasn't done, not until she destroyed every piece of my life, starting with the next move she had already set in motion.